Welcome to the Pursuit of Growth show, where we hold candid conversations with fascinating individuals from all walks of life to learn about their passions, successes, failures, lessons learned, and how they apply personal growth to their lives. We'll end the conversation with key takeaways that we can all implement to better ourselves and the lives of those around us. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and great buddy, Sammy Gonzalez. What's up, Sammy?
Hey, what's up, Greg? Good to see you. So happy again to be having great conversations on this podcast or this show here too. And I'm really excited about who we have with us today. So I'm going to intro a very special person to our in our lives to the show. So our guest today is Brian Millage. I have a long history with that name. We can talk about that a little bit later. But Brian Millage is a Dallas native whose 9 to 5 consists of fundraising for nonprofits across North Texas. While working in the Dallas philanthropic space for over a decade, Brian has had the opportunity to develop relationships with numerous community leaders, business leaders, and entrepreneurs while raising donations and awareness for more than 100 nonprofits. Outside of the nonprofit space, Brian is a style consultant who helps men and women dress their best on a daily basis. Whether it's for photo shoots, special events, or simply a night out on the town, Brian helps his clients look their best and feel their best with his style consultants and closet cleanouts. And if he didn't have enough things to do already, in his free time, Brian spends time connecting and collaborating with individuals to help build their businesses and brands. So I am so excited about this. Brian, welcome to the Pursuit of Growth show.
Oh, my guy, Sammy, Greg, thank you so much for allowing me to be here in this space. And I mean, more importantly, it's good to see y'all, man. I mean, it's good to connect, good to see and be seen. But thank y'all for inviting me to the show.
It's awesome. Well, we've been looking forward to this too, and we've got our disclaimer too a little bit later on in the show. We'll tell everyone else, but really, first thing that we wanted to kind of touch on, just get your stance on this first question is, what is your go-to piece of advice for men seeking to enhance their style or fashion?
Of course, to enhance the male's style and fashion, other than calling me, I'd definitely say a suit. Get you a nice tailored suit. No matter the color, just one that you enjoy and appreciate and want to wear. But just get it tailored, and I can guarantee, like, your confidence will be boosted. I mean, times 10. Whether it be how you look in the mirror or a compliment from family, friends, a loved one, it just does so much for you. And I tell you, if you even want to take it up a notch, get you a custom suit, and oh my goodness, it's amazing. Amazing.
I think that was something that you told me a long time ago, is that it really doesn't matter. You gave me some great advice. It didn't really matter, but it's all about kind of the fit too. But how did you come to that realization? Like how did you get that piece of advice drilled in you?
Well, just it's the eye. For years, I always look at people's clothing, not about the color and the patterns, but more so the way it fit their body types, and it all came down to fit and how it fit them. And as a skinnier guy and average height of 5'9", I can't be all those different sizes and different fits that I see people in. So I was like, Brian, just get it fit for you. This is your body. These are your clothes. And so when I realized that, I could take it to a tailor. And once I found the right one, my confidence went up, 10 times. And it was just like, man, I can get pants tailored. I can get shirts tailored. I can get suits tailored. This is it right here. I can buy whatever piece of clothing that I like and then simply get it made to fit me. And it looks and feels that much better. So when I realized that the game changed drastically.
Brian, what do you think it is about a suit? And what I mean by that, I'll share a little story. So we live in a world now where, especially from a professional standpoint, I think the trend is to be more casual and for people to not have to wear suits and ties and those type of things. For the work that I do in the nonprofit space, I meet with a lot of corporations and a lot of major gift donors. So I tend to dress in suits, and it's amazing how I notice a difference. And you and I have worked together. You've seen I show up most days in a suit.
Right.
I just feel confident. I feel strong. I feel put together. What is it? What have you seen with people? What do you think causes that? What gives you that feeling that when you're in a tailored suit that fits, that makes you feel good, not even an expensive suit?
No,
Where do you think that feeling and that confidence comes from? What is it about a suit?
man, I think it's outside of like the historical context. I think it's what you receive as far as perception from a suit, right? So, a big part of why it was the reactions I would get for when people would see me in a suit. I'm like, wait a minute, I wear decent and nice clothes on a daily basis, but if I put on a blazer and some pants and some dress shoes, people flip out. Cool, I'm gonna do that more, right? I'm gonna just wear more suits and get a better reaction out of people. But I think it's just the colors, it's the patterns, it's the different elements that you can add to a suit and put on a nice button-up shirt and to be fully pressed. I think it shows like cleanliness, it shows taste, it shows style, it shows that you took a little bit of time, whether you did or didn't, to put that much more effort in a suit. And I also think from the historical contents, a suit may have meant that you had money, like you were able to buy something that was well crafted by someone's hands or someone's like skills with a sewing set, and actually wear something of that level of sophistication. And I mean, you see people all around the world in different decades and different centuries that when they put on a 3, 4, 5 piece button suit or a vest or a 3 piece or what have you, you just think differently of them. You think just exuding exquisite taste and style. So, seeing you walk in and on our in Vogel on a daily basis and talk to everybody, I'm like, man, like this guy is he's the ish, and you see people on the walkways wearing suits, and it just adds that next level thing. And I've ever since I've seen people wear suits in movies, on TV shows, and on, like I said, runways, I appreciated that much more. And then when I was able to get my hands on a suit when I was younger, all my friends, all my family, my mom was like, "Oh, you look good." And it was just the reaction that I received from it that said, "Man, if people give me compliments because I put on a suit, I need to wear more suits."
I love it.
I was gonna say it is almost to me like that timeliness, that classicness that we've grown up with, like the James Bond, and all this kind of stuff too. So I recently bought a new suit just because I hadn't had one in a long time and had some things to do, and I went and they didn't custom tailor it to me, but it was fit better for me because I just had my old ones that I had all the time. And I was like, man, that did. Like I put it on, and it's kind of like, all right. That's
it's like butter, man. It's just smooth.
And I think it's too. It's like, but it's also the simplicity too, right? It's like, all right, jeans or pants, a jacket, and then you put on a nice shirt. Even that alone, like it just seems like you were intentional. You know, you put this on too. So I think that's too is like something I've always gotten out of it. And I dress a lot more casual, but I do love that putting on like that really nice well-fitting suit, and like even like the textures and the fabrics like you mentioned, especially like on the inside, like when you see like all the cool patterns. So that's my favorite parts of suits.
Oh, yes. And that's the best part about a suit, and then getting one that's fully custom to you. Of course, you can choose all of those things. You can choose the inside patterns, the lapel width, the buttons and the colors, the stitching, I mean the cuff, I mean on and on and on. And it's just like you would an expensive car or a suit or a nice pair of shoes. When you have it customized to fit you and fit what you want, you just appreciate it that much more. And then at that point, I could care less about what the next person thinks about how I look. I know that I made the suit that I'm wearing different game. You just feel so much better about who you are and the decisions you put into getting dressed and making that suit happen.
It's almost like I was just gonna follow up. It's almost like it's like, like a uniform, like you're getting ready, like you're all right, I'm putting on the suit. We're doing something important today. Like that's what it is. And so I bet that's probably what Greg feels too. Like whenever you're wearing it, getting ready for those meetings, hey, it's time, right?
Yeah. It's like you're putting on your uniform. It's time to go out and do business. But I love what you said about Brian having it tailored to you. Mm-hmm. So I'm 5'5". I weigh like $120 on a heavy day. When I go to your typical store, there is not a shirt, a suit, or a pant that fit me.
Right.
So I go get everything tailored for me. So I've learned that there's an investment with that. So
Oh,
I need to
yeah.
make sure that I'm buying stuff that's good quality, not necessarily expensive,
Hmm.
but things that are going to last. And then I need to take care of them because I'm going to have an additional expense to get them tailored to me. But
Exactly.
there's just a feeling of when you have clothing that fits you right for your body type and your body style, that just gives you, again, for me, it just gives me confidence.
Hmm.
And it goes along with everything you just said. But another item I wanted to ask your opinion on, and it's a story that happened to me very early in my career. My first sales job when I moved to Dallas, our national sales manager was coming to visit our office. And it just so happened that the day before she was coming, I decided it was time for me to go buy a new pair of shoes because the pair of shoes that I had were a little bit old and they were getting a little rough. And so I had my suit, had my new pair of shoes, and we had our meeting with her that day. Afterwards, she pulled me aside and she said, Greg, I know you're young and I know you're new into this role of outside sales, but I want to tell you something that really impressed me about you. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm ready to listen. She said, you polished your shoes before this meeting. Well,
That's it. The little things matter.
well, here's what's funny, Brian. No, I did not polish my shoes. They just happened to be brand new, right? But she told me it's the little details.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at your shoes and I looked at everyone else in your office, you had the only pair of shoes that were shining. And she told me that you care about the details.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that you're going to care about the details of what it takes to succeed in your work and to succeed in becoming the salesperson, the businessman, the professional development leader that you want to be. And even though I was maybe a little bit of a hypocrite because that's not exactly what happened,
Right.
I took that lesson. And to this day, before I go into work, I make sure my shoes are clean and I make sure that they're sharp, that they're not dirty. They don't have, dirt and mud on them or whatnot. So my question to you is, how important are shoes to an outfit? And how often do you notice, as a person of style, how often do you notice other people's shoes?
Greg, I notice your shoes every day because they were always clean. I kid you not. I've never seen a speck of mud on your shoes ever in my life. Don't know how you do it, but by golly, George, you do it. I commend you on that because, one, I'll answer, and then I'll also ask you the question, but that had to feel amazing for you to be told that that was something that she noticed, and not only did it help like the style game, but it helped you professionally develop, and that was something that I commend you on, and I'm grateful to know you and learn from you on that aesthetic because you pay attention to every little thing that matters moving forward because it can definitely help grow you and the business and what you're doing later on in life. So that's phenomenal, and I think details are extremely important, and I think the more that you, like anything in life, the more that you level up in a sense, whether it's business, personal, professional life, you tend to notice different things. It's like, okay, cool. I know that I have to iron my pants, whether it be a flat front or a crease in the middle, depending on your preference. And then you want to be sure that you iron those pants to that level every time. Once you've mastered that, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna learn how to cuff my pants. I'm going to learn how to do a roll or a double roll or what have you, to the side, to that, whatever. Cool, got that mastered down. I'm going to wear shoes that enhance the preference or look of my cuff. So I'm going to wear a single cuff when I wear my Chucks. I'm going to wear no cuffs when I wear my dress shoes, or I'm going to roll one pants leg up when I wear my sneakers, whatever it may be. But I think it's just a part of noticing those details every time you've mastered something of your style. So for you to like be so keen and pristine on your shoes, I love that about you. Like the only pair of shoes that I know that you have that aren't clean are Chucks, and they're supposed to be like that. I've never owned a clean pair of Chucks in my life. Even before I wore them, I probably washed them or dirtied them up real quick. But details are important. Whether it be, you add a nice watch or timepiece to your wrist, or whether you add a nice timepiece to your suit, or whether you put on some bracelets or a chain, or add an earring, or add a lapel pin. I think details matter because it shows, like you said earlier, Greg, how much more you care about not just how people see you, but how you feel and see yourself. And whether it be polishing your shoes every day or keeping them in good condition, whether it be manicuring your nails or taking care of your hair, your eyelashes for women and men, whether it be applying makeup or mascara. Just those things can escalate not just your physical appearance, but your internal confidence by meters. And I think when it comes to, I mean, style and dressing and overall, confidence is what makes that style work for you. As long as you can exude that, you know what I'm wearing, I look good. But not only do I look good, I feel good. And I think that's the biggest part of details and how you feel as an individual.
Well, it's something that we talked about. So to give the viewers a little backstory is that Greg and I obviously worked together at Vogel Alcove here in Dallas. And I think, Brian, you were one of my early hires. I think I brought you in for like a PR right out of school, I think it was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was PR. I think it was some like PR help and some
it was like marketing, on the marketing side and social media side, and then I did volunteerism.
Yeah, and then I know you really flourished and thrived into the volunteer coordinator, and even more than that, I know you handled kind of a little bit of everything in the world. But one of the areas, we worked together for so long, so I do have to throw this out there that Brian is also in his style consultant ways. He does a lot, and he gives a lot of advice. But I will take full credit for the name of his company. If Brian, you want to tell them about the name of the company.
Oh man, by all means, I give much credit to you and Greg and a few other folks, but it was the push I needed to really get this thing started. And for those who, of course, may not know my story, my name is Brian Millage. I was born in Louisiana, but raised in Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas. And, it took me so long to try to figure out that I even wanted to start the business. And, I give kudos to you two for pushing me and saying, hey, man, you can have a 9 to 5, but like many others, you can have a 5 to 9 and do what you're passionate about. And for me, it was helping people get dressed. We all have to get dressed every day. So I might as well be a part of that process and help people get dressed. So I spent months just trying to figure out, the name of what I should call, this new business that I wanted to start and seeing everybody do. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be unique. And, I think it was Sammy and a few other people who was just saying, man, you're your own brand. Like you're sophisticated. You're unique. You're the Millage. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. That has a nifty little ring to
now,
it.
I've got to stop you right there because this is the cold hard facts right here. Is that I'm going to take all the credit in the world because I saw it and I was like, man, you got a brand, you got a style,
yeah.
the Millage. And then I saw your business. This is fate. I was about 30 miles away from where you lived.
Yeah.
It was Easter weekend. And I had the kids out at an Easter egg hunt where the massive fields. And I happened, Greg, I don't even know if you know the story. I happened to be walking in the sea of soccer fields where all the eggs are. And I look down and I bend down and I pick up and it's a business card for the Millage Style Consultants. And it was Brian's card. I could not believe it.
So crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I always had the question of, man, is my business that trash that people just throw around my business cards? Or the fact that it literally reached, 30 miles away from where the idea and the business started. And does that just, show that my reach is getting not just, 30 miles away, but even further? And I mean, that's just a testimony in itself, man. And so appreciative, like when you told me that, and it still blows my mind to this day.
Well, Brian, speaking about your business, one of the things that you and I talked about right along the time where you were launching this was how do you get dressed sharp, nice, all these things that we just talked about. How can the everyday normal person do it on a budget? And you floored me with some of the answers, suggestions, and advice that you gave me. And so I'd love for you to share just a little bit about your business, how you help people, and really how you address people that may say, Brian, I'd like to improve my style. I'd like to improve my dress, but how can I do it on a relatively limited budget?
Right. Good question, Greg. And I gotta definitely give you more kudos again. I'm giving you kudos all night because y'all deserve the flowers where I can still smell them. But man, I want to thank you, Greg, for surprising me at my lunch party. I don't know if you remember that, but it was, I think the year was 16 when I launched it. And you and some other vocal alcove homies from the young professionals group like just surprised me and showed up. And that was another moment that I was like, dang, I'm really doing something, but people care enough to show up and surprise me and make me feel that much more like proud in that moment. And I definitely cried at that time when I saw y'all and a few other folks, and definitely cried after that happened. But y'all have been so supportive of me from day one, in all of my ventures, and just know I'm gonna do the same for y'all. And it's amazing like how far we've come and how far we're gonna go. But yeah, when it comes to getting dressed, whether it be on a budget or whatever funds or no funds that you have access to, it's about, once again, how it fits you. So when it comes to getting dressed on a budget, I'm super key on thrift stores and consignment shops. I actually love clothes swapping with folks. I mean, a big part of what I do when I actually clean out closets, I'll ask people, I'll say, hey, are you okay with me bringing you clothes from some other people, and are you okay with me with giving your clothes to someone else? A option that I have is that I can consign, donate, or offer to somebody else with the old clothes that you don't want anymore. And I think you can wear anything that's old and make it brand new, especially when it's out of your closet and goes into someone else's for the first time. So I'm all about clothes swapping. I love consignment shops mainly because you never know what you're going to find. People will literally take their clothes and, of course, sell it to a store or a person because they deem it as valuable. But that person doesn't want it anymore. So one man's trash is another one's treasure. And consignment is just that. And the same with donations. I love thrift stores for the fact of, one, a lot of those thrift stores do support, philanthropic efforts that we all care about in the city. And so we know that those clothes are being used for the best cause and given to someone who needs them. But in addition, even if those clothes aren't given directly to a client or someone who needs the service, then they're purchased by someone like myself or many others, and then the funds are then able to benefit the people who needs the most. So I love me a good thrift store. I mean, Genesis thrift store in the Cedar Springs area is one of my favorite. I love any Lullabies, if anyone's familiar with that. And I love me a good Goodwill. I mean, they never fail. But I think that once you find something that you like, purchase it. And then from that point, go back to the first question, get that thing tailored. If it doesn't fit you, but you still like it and appreciate it, get it to fit you and you'll love it that much more. I can't tell you how many shirts that I've gotten that may have been a tad bit too big, or the collar or the length in the sleeves may have been just a smidget too long. And, I'm thinking, well, somebody with a good pen and needle can definitely fix that for me so I can, wear the heck out of it. But that's key, man. I mean, being able to purchase within your financial means is one thing, but then being able to still wear it and get it, spend $10 on that tailor and it'll make you feel like $1,000 guaranteed. But I definitely think that thrifting and consignment shops are the way to go. Swapping clothes, I mean, if you get tired of something, put it on Instagram, put it on social media, send it to a family member, and I guarantee they'll say, oh, you wore this that one time and I loved it, and you're gonna give it to me. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you may be tired of it, but it's brand new to them, and so they can wear it too. So I'm so big on that.
That's
so big.
Brian, that's an amazing answer. Actually, I don't think I ever like heard that key point. I know you've talked about shopping at some of the different like bargain stores and stuff like that, which I do too. My kids are even saying like, I told them, I was like, if it's not on sale, I'm not buying it. So I'm a sucker for a sale. So, but that you touched on something there that I wanted to kind of lead our conversation into is your history in nonprofit work, because I know that's where we met, and you just touched on it there, so I think it's a good segue. But when you're in your history, and maybe taking a bigger step back, is what was it, or when did you realize that nonprofit was going to be the type of work you wanted to get into? What was it, and then kind of when did you know?
Man, that's a good question. And just even thinking about it, I get a little bit emotional because it's like when the picture is always painted for you, you just need the right lens to see it, or you just have to change your perception to see like the value in it and where it's literally where you've always should have been. So for me, I acknowledged it, probably Towards the end of college, I went to the University of North Texas in Denton and finished up in UNT in Denton as well as UNT Dallas, but with a degree in human services, and a minor in psychology and business management, because I was thinking psych was going to be my major, and then it wasn't. Oh, business management would be my major, and then it wasn't, and then ended up making those minors and finishing off in human services. But for that exact reason, I've always been taught to help others, right? My mom has been a huge supporter in helping others. She's been an educator for my entire life. So all I've done is seeing her teach the next generation. And so she was always, not just telling me to hold the door open for men and women, but and for elders or whomever, and always be respectful of anyone, no matter who they are, or what they look like, or how they treat you. And when I really, the light flicked on for me in college and said, wow, I can get a degree for helping people. All right, sign me up. Like, this is what I've been taught to do, so I might as well get a degree in it and be a professional at it. So I think that was then in 2012 when I made that switch to human services and graduated with a degree in 2013. And it just made so much sense then. If I can get a degree in helping people, I mean, of course we want to get paid, but regardless of the pay, then I know that I've done my heart justice and those who I've helped justice and why I got in that particular field. Um, and then when I realized, like, man, my mom was an educator. She was always helping people. Here I am fundraising to help people who need support. Here I am helping people get involved in volunteerism because they want to help because they can't do it financially just yet. Or companies who wanted to get involved first through volunteerism and then fundraise and then do other things and sponsorships. But I realized that everyone has some capacity to support others. They just don't know how. And so my entire, career as of now has been geared to helping people, one, see the support that others need, but then help them understand how they can support those who need support. And that's just been kind of my golden thing ever since that light switched for me, and I realized what my superpower was. And it's all given the praise to my mom in that aesthetic. When I realized that she raised me to be not just this male, but this person that helps others, because she's always had the golden heart to do it as well. So I always give her kudos when I'm on, a podcast, but I definitely tell her in person from time to time when she's not embarrassed about it. But yeah, she's the reason why, definitely.
Awesome.
Brian, we've talked about Vogel Alcove.
Yeah.
And so people that may be listening that aren't familiar with Vogel Alcove is an organization in Dallas, Texas that serves homeless children and homeless families. And that's where the three of us met and really grew our relationship together and did a lot of work. Since then, you've worked with the United Way, and you've worked with hundreds of companies, different organizations. I mean, you've done so much in your nonprofit career. And then also you've just done things just as an individual, just as Brian Millage, helping people in your community, and just people that come across your life. Are there some defining moments of maybe impact that you've been a part of it, experiencing, been a part of, of, of actually doing? Are there just some different stories that have really made an impact on you through the work that you've done for others?
Man, I definitely said that there has been impact that's, led upon me by helping others. But I think even in this work, I often don't think about them because it's like, who can I help next? Right? It's always thinking about who else needs the support, who else needs assistance, who else wants to help, and how can I connect them? And that's why a big motto of mine is connecting and collaborating, right? Because I'm always thinking like, cool, I'm going to ensure that these two people meet or these groups meet so they can help the bigger picture. But I can definitely say kind of top three defining moments was one, Sammy, you were a part of this one when you and I went to PepsiCo and received that, I think it was that $20,000 gift from PepsiCo in a pitch segment. And it went directly to Vogel. And it was literally, us three working together, Greg, Sammy, and I working together on volunteer efforts for PepsiCo, just ensuring that they were comfortable and understood what Vogel Alcove was all about and getting them engaged. And pretty much the employees went back and voted on who was going to be the winner of this $20,000 gift. And I mean, sure enough, we went for the pitch, and we're just there, kind of seats in the crowd, and to be the last one called on stage, like, hey guys, just to let y'all know, you all are the winners of the 20 grand. We're like, oh dang, this is gonna help phenomenally in the work that we do and the children and parents that we serve. But that moment was just like, wow, we were able to pitch to a global company about how they can become engaged with a community that they really didn't know much about at that time. And not only were we rewarded for it, but our families were. And I think that moment was like, dang, I got to keep doing this to be sure that these kids and parents need more money and get more money. So that was one of them for sure. And then I think a second one being, I mean, just the work at United Way. I mean, it's grown my vision a lot more, and seeing not just the community impact on corporate engagement and CSR goals, but also just the global engagement that's needed to support our causes and to make more people understand the true need of who needs what, and then what we can do to help those individuals. And I think just being there and working with more companies and more people, it shows me kind of the deficits that we have, the more education that's needed on both standpoints, on people who need support and people who want to support, and then also that there's just more work to be done to ensure that everyone can get on the same page and quote unquote not have these issues anymore. I think that's the main goal of philanthropy and nonprofits. Is the mission is to overcome and surpass whatever they're trying to accomplish. And I think that just tells me that there's still more fight to be, fought. And that's why I'm still in this. So that's kind of the second piece of it as far as impact. And I think the third one was a partnership that I helped secure with another nonprofit that I'm a member of called Two Fly Foundation. And it's an organization that helps children from underserved communities the opportunity to learn or travel abroad. And last year, literally about 18 months ago, we were able to create a brand partnership with Rock Nation. And Rock Nation is, one of the brands under the almighty Jay-Z. And he has a clothing company called Planes. And so we were able to work with Rock Nation and their clothing brand Planes and do a partnership that allowed some of their funds from a line that they created for us to come back to the organization. So they did a branding video behind it. Of course, they did the merch. And then they did a whole social media segment for us. And then just seeing what, a cold call and a cold email could do, but also leveraging the work that we've done in our marketing and just our materials, and how it was a no-brainer for them to sign on and help us. And that was just like, man, not only are we fighting the good fight, but we're doing the great work that's being seen by people that aren't just in our backyards, but are across the nation. And I think once that partnership was confirmed and we were able to gain the benefits, that was so impactful to me, and saying like, I mean, keep fighting the good fight. And then even this year, throughout the pandemic and all that's going on, that said, hey guys, we're going to do it again. This may become annual. And just, I mean, mind blown that it's good to where they want to keep giving to the good,
I love that. And I'd like to share a story that is one of my impactful moments that directly deals with you, Brian. And
oh man,
to be quite honest, the three of us, I think we could probably spend a whole podcast just telling stories of initiatives that we were a part of that probably were emotional and impactful.
Right.
But in particular, and I'm sure you'll remember this, we're probably looking back about 3 to 4 years ago, and it started about 3 days before Thanksgiving. And one of our caseworkers was meeting with a family that we had recently assisted in moving from a homeless shelter into our first apartment. And this particular family was a single mom with 4 children. And as she was communicating with her caseworker at Vogel Alcove, was telling her, hey, everything's fine, we're good, we're set up, we've got everything we need. But our caseworker, being very good at her job, and understanding the trials and challenges this family and this young woman was going through, knew that she needed to probably pry a little bit deeper, because this was a woman that was very proud and didn't always like to ask for help. And so our caseworker went by and visited her in her new apartment and realized that this family of 5, the 4 children, I believe it was 4 children, and the mom literally had no furniture. And the children were sleeping on towels on the floor. And so she immediately called me and said, Greg, this is the situation, what's going on. Are there some companies that we can reach out to that could do some kind of a quick drive for us to get furniture and supplies and all these different types of items? And this is right before Thanksgiving. And so the short answer was no. There's not going to be a company that we can turn to make a big turnaround. And so I came and I shared this information with yourself, with Sammy, with our CEO, Karen, and our team. And we thought, okay, well, what if we reach out to some of our donors that have been very impactful in our mission? Brian, can you send an email out and see if we can't maybe just generate some funds or some items to be able to help this family? And so you put together an email and you reached out to a segment of our donor base that within a day came back to us and said, yes, we can help. We got this. We have a bed. We have a crib. We have sheets. We have pillows. We have mattresses. We have all these different things. And long story short, in a 2-day time period, Brian arranged with, I think, like literally 10 different stops where all these different families are bringing these items to 10 different locations, that him, myself, and another guy that used to work for us named John, we loaded up our big van, and the 3 of us became movers the day before Thanksgiving. And we started at like 6 a.m. And we drove, we're going into people's houses. We were going to different areas of Dallas to pick up beds and frames and everything this family could need, and delivering it to them step by step. And at the end of the evening, we had fully furnished this young woman and her family's home. And to this day is probably the most tired that I've ever been after a day's work. But I'd love to know, Brian, do you remember that day?
I do.
And do you remember just any takeaways or any stories from that time?
Man, and it's moments like these, and I thank you for bringing that up, because I'm sure like you, I still have that photo. And I know it's on social media, so I get the memory of it when it does arise. But that was a great day, man. We had that van packed from beginning to the front to the back, the rooter to the tutor, whatever you want to say. That van was packed, man. And I remember driving around to all the parts of the neighborhood, and I mean, just of course receiving that information up front, like, man, this is so hurtful for a family to be going through this, any family to be going through that situation, let alone right around the holidays, but knowing that we could do something to help that family. And, in the beginning, it's like, all right, this is going to be an impossible task, right? But at times I felt like we were the impossible mission force, because we got things done. We sent out the emails, we utilized our resources and got what that family needed. And as hard and as tiresome as that day was, it was that moment I think me and you had where we just sat in the van and took that sigh of relief, but realized how much we did and how beneficial it was to that family. And even in my mind now, just seeing from when we started furnishing that apartment to when we finished it, and just we could have been on Home Improvement or Extreme Makeover Home Edition that day, because by the grace and by the support that we had, we were able to do the impossible.
It was the grace of God and so many people, and it really was a 2-week project we did in about 3 days. And my whole point with this, and the kudos that I want to give to you is, and really to everybody at Vogel Alcove, is it would have been very easy for us to say, this is the holidays, this is Thanksgiving, this is the day before. I believe our organization was off that day. We had the day off, but everyone showed up to be able to make that impact, to help out. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was one particular house that we had to actually go inside because this woman had this really nice bed for the mom. And we actually had to move.
We had to break it down.
Break it down. And I bet on the way out, we hit every wall we could. And we put so many things in this poor woman's household. Anytime. No, we're good. No issues. We're good. But man, and we had that, like I said, we had to have broken about 15 different laws with how loaded down we had that van, but man, it worked out.
Yeah, it worked, man, and that's a memory that I'll definitely always have. And you know, thankfully, she wasn't upset about any of those walls or corners that we hit, but she was more
Just
happy of
scratches,
yeah, she was more happy of getting it out. Because she
right?
wasn't. I mean, she's like, I'm not using it. Take what you need, and I don't even know if we left parts, but we made it work.
You did.
You know, that's something too that you mentioned, Greg. I'm glad you brought up that story because I think that just goes back to your relationships with people. I know there was a big loss for Boglaco when you decided to take the next leap into your next phase of your career. And I know that the organization all in general and the people around are like, wow, Brian's leaving. Like it's no, Brian, no. And so I know I was personally because you were such a big help too. But what is it? And maybe for something and so for the people that are watching, I'm getting to a long-winded story, but there's a certain phrase that you said, and I'll mention that later. But one of the things that you're really good at is making those relationships and building those relationships. Man, they're all genuine. Like I've never known you to be a fake person or not even give a fake smile. You know, it's
No.
like who you are always. But maybe like give us your thoughts on that. Like some people find it challenging to make some of those true relationships, or maybe they're wanting to be better. That maybe that's a New Year's resolution, thinking about the new year coming up. You know, like what are some of the ways that you go about like forming those great relationships? Obviously, it's very innate, but like how can you give some advice to some other people about that?
Man, I thank you for that, Sammy. I know that's a big part of um, probably what's let me get to the point and stature that I'm at right now. I don't think it's a big one, but just to allow me to know two guys like you and all the other people that I've met at Vogel and just throughout my short life. Um, but it's just genuine, just being super genuine, man, and being honest. And I think a big part of that is knowing who I was first, knowing that I am an African American male, I am a skinny. Greg, you may be a buck 20, I probably 145 soaking wet. But it's just accepting who I am and knowing that if I want to be better, then I can do it. And if I don't want to be better, Lord forbid, then it's okay. But just taking a good look at who I am, one, and then knowing who I can become if I do X, Y, and Z, right? So just being my authentic self. And I think no matter who I am, I can always connect with somebody because one, I'm myself. Everyone has one job, and that's to be who you are to your true self. And if I can be my goofy self, if I can be my stylish self, if I can be my hungry self and eat all the food I want and not gain any weight, sure, I can be happy. It may not make other people happy, but it's just what it is, man. I think that if you can make somebody smile on a daily basis or comfort them when they're going through something horrible, or just being that shoulder to lean on or being that hand to hold when they need support, just finding what your space is in somebody else's life.
Mm.
And I think, well, I'm on this planet, thanks to my mom and dad, but clearly I'm here for a reason. So let me find that reason for everybody that I interact with, whether it's to help them find their passion in a nonprofit, whether it's to help them get dressed for the gala, whether it's to introduce them to somebody who needs a, advisor or a digital marketing person or X, Y, and Z. I think if I know somebody, then I can help connect somebody to somebody else. And just finding that relative point that can make our relationship go to the next level, I'm all about it. And sometimes it's easier than most, and other times it may take a little bit longer. But if you are about putting in that effort to get to know me deeper, so am I. And I have no problem, as you guys both know, about being honest and telling you my thoughts or telling you how I feel about a situation. And fortunately, I think that's one thing that people resonate with me on. They're okay with my honest and true self, and that's truly who I am. I mean, I don't have a reason to be fake or give a fake smile or X, Y, and Z, but I'm just trying to leave the world better than how I found it. And I think a part of that is making people smile and laugh on a daily basis, man. So yeah, I'm all here for it. You know that.
And, you mentioned the word superpower earlier. I think another superpower that you possess that impresses me is just what you said, and that is you are genuine.
Mhm.
And oftentimes in the world that we live in, our situations and our scenarios can lead us to act as though we're people that we're not.
Right.
And you often, and when I say often, I mean always, you always show up as Brian Millage.
Yeah.
And who you see is what you get. And that's a really refreshing and encouraging thing, especially this year. And one of the things that Sam and I, we talked about this before we started recording the podcast. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about was this year that we've just gone through, 2020.
Hmm.
And in history, as we look back on this year, I believe there's going to be three major areas of interest that people focus on that'll be the source of documentaries and interviews for the rest of our lifetime, for our kids and for our kids' kids. And I think they're going to look at COVID-19 and how that pandemic affected our world, what we learned from it, how the advances and the way that we were able to overcome it is going to change our future.
Yes. Yes.
I think we're going to look at the turmoil that we've gone through in terms of just the election and politics. Whatever side of the aisle that you're on, there's so many lessons learned. There's so many challenges that were presented. I think that's going to be a big initiative that we're going to continue to study. And then I think the third area is racial inequality.
Yeah.
And especially this summer, that was the major news item, area of interest in this world. And you being a genuine person, and you talk about, I'm a young Black man, just tell us a little bit about your thoughts of what this year was like for you, especially when it came to a lot of the hot button topics that were really put to the forefront of all of our minds: systemic racism, the inequality, and just the challenges that for a lot of people maybe didn't really realize how difficult the Black community was really facing some of these trials and challenges just that are in our society. And would love, just, it's a very subjective question just to kind of throw out there, but I just love to hear some of your initial thoughts of what this year meant to you.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg, and thanks for I mean, not just asking it, but even before the call, just getting that okay. And once again, as you all know, I'm thankful to have a space to talk about it, and glad that we have ears to listen to the response. And I mean, this year has been one for the books for sure, as you mentioned. And I think that definitely because of COVID and the pandemic, due to the elections, and even with more racial injustice and inequalities, it's just tiring, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, just the fatigue is at an all-time high. But I will say the one thing that I am fortunate of about this year in 2020 is that more people realize the inequalities. They realize the injustices. They understood them more. And I think that with all the individuals who, I mean, not just lost their lives, but in a sense, in my mind, sacrificed their lives for the betterment, I won't let that be in vain. I want to be sure that something comes of it. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time that it's happened. I mean, we know in the 60s, the civil rights, we know that, the slavery that happened prior to that. We know that it's been historic. I mean, it's centuries ago with different cultures and communities, that it's always been an issue of minorities being treated different, not being given the same treatment as lighter individuals or Caucasian or white or European or what have you. And this year, I've it's been a roller coaster for me personally. I mean, from Ahmaud Arbery being murdered while going for a jog. I mean, that not just scared me, but it terrified my parents. I was trying to become a more avid runner and just going outside to get fresh air in between Zoom calls and meetings, and to be afraid to do that, no matter what time of day it was scary. Even now, I'm still not 100% comfortable because it's just the world we live in. I mean, you had a young Black male going for an afternoon jog, and no means it was dark. It wasn't. It was the light of day, and his life was taken from him. And then from George Floyd, in that entire case, it was once again just another African American male having his life taken from him and making it go to the store, the convenience store, that much more difficult. Um, it brings tears to my eyes. It brings hurt to my heart, and just seeing all the horrific things we had happen this year. I mean, especially with Breonna Taylor and getting murdered in her own home. It's just unjustifiable in all those acts. But unfortunately, this wasn't the first time, and I can only hope that this was the last. But in my mind, I know that it's not. Um, but from all of these things, it's systemic. It's the lack of education or the lack of self-awareness from other people, and some people, excuse my language, but some people just not giving a damn about other lives. And it hurts that somebody else's life is not worth a penny to others. And to me, your life is just as precious as mine, and I want to be sure that everyone gets that opportunity, the equitable opportunity to receive that from the world that we live in. And I think that's another reason why I'm in the work that we're doing. That's why I'm, a philanthropic individual. That's why I'm now indulging myself into equity and inclusion. That's why I'm trying to learn what needs to happen to make the changes necessary in the society that we live in. And I just know that this work isn't anywhere being close to done, but I am grateful that more people are being open to how they can help create the change. They're being more open to how their actions, both daily actions, societal, and even now political actions, can affect somebody for the better and some others for the ultimate worst. And I think the more aware that we become after this year, the more satisfying it'll be for more people to live their lives in the best way possible. But to sum it up for me, 2020 was definitely a roller coaster, and being an African American male in today's world and in this year, it's been happy, it's been sad, it's been empowering, it's been frustrating, it's been emotional, it's been 2020, you know. And once again, the phrase of the evening for me is, I'm going to leave this place better than I found it. And by the grace of God, he's given me and showing me the tools, the people who are willing to ride with me on this journey. And I'm hoping that it'll be better than how I found it. Yeah.
Man, that's well said. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that's a difficult subject to talk about, without a doubt. And this has been a challenging year, and there's just so many, especially when you look at everything from what's happened with the police and the perspective of how that's been a challenge. And then we talk about privilege. Yeah. And, one thing that I wanted to ask you about, and this is just my personal take, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, but I think we look at our world, especially if we look at our communities, and we look at African Americans, we look at Caucasian, we look at the different sects here in our culture, and it's clear that because of our history, and I'm just going to narrow it down to just talking about the African American community for the sake of this conversation, that if you compare the African American community on whole against the white community on whole, there is privilege to being a white male in our society. And I think often when people hear that, especially other white males, they become defensive. Where my belief is, you shouldn't become defensive about your privilege, because having privilege isn't a bad thing. What you should instead do is be passionate about how can we take privilege and make it universal? How can we give everybody privilege and opportunity? So stop feeling guilty about it, but how can we share it and build it up? But I'm just curious to know your thoughts on just that sentiment.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, Greg. Like, white privilege is a historical thing that we know has existed for many centuries. I mean, long before any of us were here. And yes, it's something that is going to be had whether you ask for it or not. But I think it's one, understanding that you have that privilege, you have that white privilege, and other communities and people of color don't have it. But one, Cool, you have it, great, let's get past it. Like you said, how
Mm-hmm.
can we empower others to not just obtain that privilege, but just utilize, or excuse me, gain access to resources that they can utilize to help them, give them not just an advantage, but a portion of that privilege. I mean, it'll never be the same, it'll never be at the same level. But offering up your privilege to understand that it can help so many others, whether it's speaking up in a room on behalf, correctly behalf, on someone else of a different color, or standing and putting your foot down to support someone else's, and gearing support of other, like minded or other individuals to support something else. And I think it's bigger than yourself. Realizing that something is bigger than yourself is where it starts. And not everyone can see that. Not everyone has that switch turned on in their head, or can have that button push and then access that part of their brain. But I think it's a huge point. And unfortunately, there's so many things that a book can tell you. There's so many things that people can tell you that you can actually receive from, but it's, unfortunately, the experience is what typically shifts people idealisms, or ideas about certain situations. So, unless someone is put in a position where they're able to realize the white privilege and how it's more beneficial to them than a person of color or a different gender or what have you, then they won't truly realize what power they have. Um, and it's, once again, it's being self-aware and being okay with being aware and educated enough to say, okay, yeah, I have an advantage. How can I help someone else gain an advantage or gain simple resources that they don't have access to? How can I help someone else gain their voice in a room where they've been often siloed? Just how? And the more educated we become, the more we're able to listen, to others. And I always thank you two, especially now, for giving me this platform once again to speak my thoughts, but even in the workspace. I mean, allowing me to speak at the table, allowing me to sit at the table, because that allowed my professional and personal growth so many measures. And without you two, I definitely wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now. But a lot more people in general need a Greg and a Sammy in their life to offer them that support, to give them that hand, to give them that shoulder, to lift them up in times, where mountains don't seem high enough or don't seem like a step stool. So it means a lot to have somebody who's willing to give you an ear or a hand or just a push when needed. And unfortunately, not everybody, especially people of color, has had that in their lives.
Yeah.
And I think if we can do more of that, as we come to a close of 2020 and as we progress through our individual lives, I think that'll be more helpful, than anything. And even if you don't know how to help, there's a simple question: how can I help you? What do
Mhm.
you need from me? What can I do to help you get to where you want to be? And I think those questions can do so much for somebody if they're asked.
Brian, that was one that was beautiful to hear just from your perspective as well. I don't want to mince my words over that great information that you just shared with us. And I've got so many thoughts and so many things that have run through my mind, but I'll never forget to tell a story that there was there was a time at Vogel when we were standing um, by the front reception desk. And for people that don't know the organization where it is, there's a kind of a home pod-ish area and everyone walks by there. And you were standing there. I'll never forget. It was either a blue blazer or it was a green blazer, and you were wearing a sweater underneath, and you were wearing khakis, and I believe it was a yellow shirt underneath. I'm a visual guy, so I remember all this stuff. But I just remember you're very very well put together, sharp. You're great. And we had a tour group coming in, and and we were going to give them a tour or something like that, and remember a classroom came by, and the children that are experiencing homelessness right now, a majority of the population that's within Bogoaco from the last time I was there was majority African American. And I'll never forget like looking at you and seeing this very well put together and poised individual who is ready to welcome people with a smile on their face and all this and be part of like a champion for the mission for the kids that you're serving. And like, you know, I knew you and all that kind of stuff. And I just looked over you, and then I just happened to turn and look, and I saw a young child, and he was probably, I mean, toddler age, just kind of looking at you and just kind of like sizing you up almost like, and I realized all of a sudden there, I was like, oh my gosh, like just the fact that you showing up to be yourself, and you like taking the pride in the way you look and the way you present yourself, the way you welcome other people, and the way you have that helpful mindset, like it was all just glowing from you that day. And I look over and I couldn't help but think like this is like hopefully that's like a role model moment for that. And I'll never forget that moment, because I just thought, and you're actually a shining example of why I think that if people really listen to the stuff that you just said and take that to heart and understand like you can be a helper as well, that we can hopefully start to make waves in the world, and get rid of some of the stuff that's been lingering around throughout generation and after generation. Um, but it's again, it's for people like you that are doing that good work, that are having this type of mindset, that are willing to go the extra mile to help other people, I think, that are really going to change the world. So hopefully people hear that message that you just said, and you know, can take it to heart.
That means a lot, Sammy. I appreciate you for those words. I'm almost in tears over here, man. I'm trying to hold it back and be strong. But I mean, you said it so well. Being in that space definitely gave me a lot more just humbling experiences, knowing that in my life, you know, I was a few days in that situation that a lot of our families were in at Bogle Alcove, and not going too much into detail for that story, but you know, I saw a lot of myself in those children. One, not just because of the situation, but definitely because of the skin tone. I mean, I looked like a lot of those children, and for me, it was literally just going into the classrooms, knowing that, I mean, one, because we didn't have a lot of males, let alone at Bogle, as teachers and educators, or African American males at that point. So it was being a familiar face in a classroom. And unfortunately, even not just in the African American community, but in the homeless community, there aren't a lot of males, father figures, uncles, brothers, or what have you. So I was something different to those kids. One, because in a lot of cases, I wasn't harmful. Like I was the one who was a lover or a protector or an assistant to the teachers. I was that friendly face along with, you know, you, Sammy, and Greg, and a few of the other males there. So we were the happy male to them. But to look like them, that was something that was probably not, I mean, not familiar to them. And so I wanted to be sure that they were comfortable with me because we were there on a daily basis. And I know that if I was able to give them that positive male black figure, then hopefully they would grow up to know, like, oh, black men aren't harmful. They are loving. They are powerful. They can be well dressed. They cannot have a record. They can do all of these things. And I can grow up to be a positive, educated, well dressed black male as well. Or just a black child, or a child of color. I mean, Asian Americans, what have you. I mean, it was just setting that tone and giving those children something to look at, and knowing that hopefully they could be the same and definitely be better than me when they grow up too. And I walked in with that mindset every day. I just wanted to be a positive black figure to those kids, because I don't know if I was going to be the last one that they would ever see. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, well, Brian, I'm going to tell you this right now. And I know Sammy agrees with me. We have to have you back on here in the near future to talk more about all of these areas, because I feel like we just barely touched the tip of what we could go into the depth for in all these areas. And so thank you for sharing your honest feedback, your opinions, and your tips. This has been a really, really enjoyable conversation, and a really just good learning opportunity for me to listen to you and the words that you shared, and I appreciate it. It was this has just been a joy to just sit and listen to you talk today.
Oh man, I thank y'all for not just giving me the platform, but always being 4 ears to listen to me, whether it be a car ride or a nice sit down over some whiskey, or even fundraising in the nonprofit space, or just hanging back, man. I'm always so grateful to learn from you guys, and let alone be in the same space as you all. And you know, we've been talking about this for years, and I'm happy to know that it's come to fruition.
Yes.
because it's truly all about growth for all three of us, and definitely the pursuit of it.
Yes, I like that. And speaking of growth and
Yeah.
learning, we have 3 questions that we want to ask you so we can continue to learn from you.
Okay.
And then Sammy and I are going to share some takeaways that we've had from this conversation today. But the first question, Brian, and again, these are subjective questions, so answer it just however you feel.
All right.
But during your life, can you think of lessons learned in terms of self-development and growth that have been the most powerful for you? What are 1 or 2 examples of your favorite actions or methods, or again, just a lesson that has been really empowering in your life in terms of personal growth?
Man, that's good question for sure. And I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, Greg. It's pay attention to the details, man. Pay attention to the details. I think that's key. Whether it's on your personal attire or how self-aware you are, or just aware of yourself in the room of others, just paying attention to those details can mean so much. And that's definitely one thing that I learned from you for sure. And it's helped. Pay attention to the details, man.
All right, so Greg, I'm going to skip to the next one so that we don't have back-to-back ones. One of the other questions we want to ask you, actually I'll go down the list. Can you share some advice that has stuck with you over the years?
Some advice, man. There's so many things people tell me, and I heed on them, and I use them. I would say make each day fun. I mean, smile if you can. And if you can't smile, find something to smile about. That's one thing my mom does, and she laughs or finds joy in everything. Funny story, but not funny story. She actually hurt her leg not too long ago by simply falling down the stairs. I say simply because, yeah, I was so concerned. I'm like, Mom, like I was almost in tears. It's Mama. I love her. I care for her. Like, what happened? And she said, "Oh, I was checking my phone while walking down the stairs, and I sprained my ankle." And I'm, "You did what?" Yeah, I was trying to pull the phone out of my purse while walking down 4 steps, and I can't walk down the steps and look at my phone at the same time, let alone get it out of my purse. And she sprained her ankle, and she was rolling laughing. And she said, "There's a lot of things I can't do in my life because I'm left-handed, but I can't even look at my phone with my right hand while walking down steps." So just find joy. I mean, thank God it wasn't broken, and thank God that's all that happened. But she's okay, and she's moved past it now. But just finding joy in life every day, whether it be something big or something super small.
Yeah, so this is a challenging question for you, Brian. This is a little bit of a fastball.
Uh-oh.
And it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So it's hypothetical.
Okay.
So what if today you could meet your future self in 10 years? And you today could give your future self one piece of advice. What would you tell your future self?
That was a good question, Greg. That was a good question. Future self.
10 years from now.
10 years from now. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Why wait? Why wait? I mean, there's really never a good reason to wait in most positive situations. So why wait? The earlier, the better. I mean,
I love that.
The earlier you start your education, the quicker you can get it done with. The earlier you start saving, the more money you'll have later. The earlier that you ask those questions, the quicker you'll get those answers to help you move on and progress. The quicker you say sorry or apologize or put a bad situation behind you, the quicker you can get on that path to recovery and getting what you need. So, Brian, Mr. Millage, why wait? Just do it already.
Man, I love that, because no matter what phase we're in life, there's always going to be things that we want to do.
Yeah.
that for whatever reason, there may be obstacles or challenges or things that we're hesitant to do.
Yeah.
So what a great piece of advice. Because so often the question is, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I love that what would you tell yourself 10 years from now is advice that serves you back then, serves you now, will serve you later. And your 10-year from self could turn and talk to the 20-year self.
Yep.
And give them that same piece of advice. I love that.
Yeah. I mean,
that gave me chills when you said it.
It flowed so quickly. Like I said it before, and I've never heard that question. I've never said the response. I've never put those two words together. But gosh, that gave me chills. Why wait? I mean, now I have to ask myself that question every day now.
I know I will. I mean, Greg and I talk to a lot of people, and we have a lot of chit chats ourselves. And I think that's one of the more impactful answers we've ever heard. I know I've ever heard, but a great piece of advice to that question as well.
And I gotta beat myself and read that and say it more. God.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and speaking of impact and advice, this is the part of the show where Sammy and I will share each 3 takeaways that we're going to leave with from this conversation. And so, Sammy, I'll ask you, are you prepared to share 1, 2, or 3 of your takeaways?
I sure am, Greg. And I know, Brian, this is number one. It's been an impactful conversation. I think we went heavy, we went light, we went informational, we went entertainable. We've had some fun, right?
That's a word. That's
exactly. Making that worse tonight. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to coin that one. But one of the first things that really stuck out to me, I think is a broad term, that it's a simple thing too, is to be yourself. So I can't even read my own handwriting, but basically find the reason to make people smile as well. But it goes back to being yourself, understanding who you are, and just being yourself, because you can't be anyone else. So be yourself. Another piece is that everyone has the capacity to help people. It's just some people might need that direction on how. And I thought that was a pretty key phrase to remind myself when I'm talking to other people too, is that everybody has the capacity to help people. And then when we were talking about, this year 2020 and all the impactful conversation we just had, when you said this phrase about the people that have lost their lives, and I hadn't really heard it like this before, but you wanted to make sure that something came out of those loss of lives. You said you wanted to make sure something comes of it. And I thought that was a key phraseology there, because you said it was you, and I think people could take that to heart. I can make sure that something comes out of it. Not just we, because then everyone can point at everyone else, but so the ownership was really impactful. So those 3 things were really the highlights of my conversation, but really enjoyed all of it. And I appreciate all you always. I think it's not just you are a strong, wise, caring Black man. You are a strong, wise, caring individual of the planet Earth that we're here with. So I'm just proud to have you on our side and helping us out along the way.
Thanks, man. Seriously, thanks, Sam.
Well, eventually I'm going to learn my lesson when we do these shows and stop letting Sammy go first with his takeaways, because he pretty much always takes the ones that I have, and then I got to scramble to come up with 3 more. But the reality is I don't have to scramble, because I probably have 20 that I could share. And so I just go down the list to the next ones. But, one of the things, I'll just go to the fashion, the first part of our conversation. I love that you're a guy, Brian, that you can help somebody with their style, whether they're on a thrift store budget or they've got thousands and thousands of dollars to spend. But it's really all about, what do you wear that makes you feel confident? And that can take so many shapes, forms, and styles, but it's really understanding what that is and then applying it. And I think so much of our style does go to when we wear clothes that fit us. And again, we all may have a little bit different definition of what fitting means to us. But when we have clothes that fit us, we do feel better in our lives. And I love that takeaway. And then I'll add a little subnote to it, the accessories. and the little accessories can make such a big deal. And I love that you said it's not your accessories and your style aren't for other people, they're for yourself. So that was a big one takeaway that I loved. And then I'm going to piggyback off of one of the things that Sammy said, but because he mentioned earlier, I'll take a little bit different angle with it. But I love when you talk about be yourself. And for you, how can I smile and make just people feel good? And it also kind of ties into what you talked about being genuine. Mm-hmm. And again, I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. I'm going to bring it back because it really stood out to me that we all talk about being genuine, but actually living genuine is a challenge. At least it is for me. And I'll admit to people, there are circumstances that I can find myself where even though I try to present myself as a very confident person that is in charge and is in control of the situations that I'm in, I can very easily be influenced by my surroundings. We all can. But when you really make a commitment to say, you know what's more important is to just always be genuine and always be myself. And I think to do that, you need to spend some time defining who you are and what makes you happy. And you shared an example for you. And I mean, I see it right now, just that big smile comes on. It just lights up the room. Dude. Like, you've got a smile. I need to figure out how to replicate that so I can do the same thing. But when you're genuine in yourself, you take so much pressure that you put on yourself away. And it just opens up so many things. If you can just make it a goal, what does it mean to me to be genuine? And how can I actually act upon it? So that was a huge takeaway. And then it just goes to the last thing you said, why wait? Mm-hmm. Whether it's our professional lives, whether it's our personal lives, whether it's our spiritual lives, whether it's our health and wellness, whether it's our finances, whatever it might be, our dreams, our ambitions, our bad habits, our good habits that we want to increase. What do we want to do and why wait? Boom.
Drops, mic, pen, pad, everything.
You name it. I absolutely love that, man.
That was awesome. I mean, this was amazing, y'all. I cannot lie. Probably one of the best podcasts I've been invited to. And this conversation, the questions, the setup. I mean, this is it. This is it, guys.
Well, we're gonna ask you now. Will you come back on here shortly and let's do it again?
Duh. Yes.
Oh, man. All right, yes. Good. We got it booked already. All right.
Yeah, put it on my calendar. I'm showing up.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, we know we need to do that, right?
Yeah. And by the way, just so folks at home know, Sammy's been drinking water all night, but Brian and I have been having a good time back here. So if you've noticed us getting a little bit slurry as the podcast has gone on, we're having a good time.
Yeah, tonight it was definitely a hot toddy with a little cool and chill of a weather, but definitely enjoyable and definitely reminds me of good times that we've all had, especially together. So
let's do it again. Let's do it again soon. I mean, even as soon as we can in person, let's do that too. So with that, man, I want you to have a little bit of time right here to like 3 things, promotional items. Where can the audience get to know more about you? Where can they find you? What do you have going on? Anything else you want to promote? This is your time, your commercial. If it's services, businesses, causes, your time to shine. Go ahead, man.
Oh, man. Well, thanks a lot for the space. I'll say, if anything, if you're all on social media, on Instagram, for sure, you can follow me and kind of see the world that I live in and what all I'm a part of. But it's on Instagram, it's MISTER_MILLAGE. Yes, it's Mr. Millage or Mr. Millage if you're fancy. But on there, you'll see kind of my daily life. I'm also a part of some great organizations, a few that I helped start. So I'll also kind of pub those as well. But I mentioned it earlier, but Two Fly Foundation, once again, it's the nonprofit that caters to serving children in underserved communities and allowing them access to learning about travel, as well as taking trips abroad. Of course, the pandemic put a big stop sign on that, but we were able to pivot like everyone did this year and start a program in which we're sending travel resources to these students that they can learn digitally. So we are sending VR sets to kids in the Dallas community. And they have access to travel to, as of now, 5 different countries across the world and learn about the food, the travel, the transportation, their history,
Awesome.
and really take a deeper dive into those countries that they want to learn about. And hopefully, as the program progresses, more students have access to it, then we can hopefully increase that number of children who have access to the technology that we've provided and the programming as well. So
Brian, you
that's
you touched on something real quick that
mhm.
I want to say is like you touched on technology and marketing and traveling and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
stuff that it's all about me. Where can people go to make a donation, and what does a donation look like for something like that?
Yeah, so we've always had what we call a passport adopter, which is literally donating the funds, which is $150 to sponsor a passport for a child.
Mm.
You can go to tooflyfoundation.org. That's TOOFLY foundation.org. Instagram as well, Toofly Foundation on Instagram. The same on Facebook, the same on LinkedIn, Toofly Foundation. We were started as Two Flight Fundraiser, but as things progressed and we were able to, of course, obtain the 501c3 status and really get more involved in grants and just the non-profit space overall, we decided to change it to foundation. But of course, you can adopt a passport by simply donating 150 or any amount, and it'll help one give more access to the technology to the students so they can travel abroad from the safety of their own homes.
Love
But
it.
a big part was just getting them the opportunity to travel because a lot of children and people of color in those impoverished communities have never, let alone left their city and town, but more than likely the state. So we want to be sure that we can give them wings to fly even further to wherever they want to.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'll definitely be sure to put that out there. Um, and another thing that I guess I'll promote is just the great people, man. I mean, Sammy, Greg, y'all are always amazing. Y'all have always been amazing to me. Y'all have always been great friends, great partners, and everything that y'all do. So, I mean, if you guys have anything that y'all need from me, let me know because y'all deserve the world from me and everybody else. So I'm pubbing you guys. This has been a project that y'all have had in the works for years, and to see it come to fruition once again, I'm just happy to be a part. I'm happy to be given the space. I'm happy to see what y'all have grown to and what y'all will grow to. So uh giving glory to y'all, man, because y'all deserve the flowers where I can still smell them, man. It's definitely that.
Thanks, man.
Definitely that.
That means a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and this is a big bowl of pudding that we're eating out of right now, man.
Well, this has been awesome, man. And for those that are watching at home, if you want to learn more about the pursuit of growth, we encourage you to visit our website, which is www.livetpg.com, where you can read our blog, you can watch the Pursuit of Growth show, and you can see other episodes that we filmed. You can also sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get weekly updates on the new blog and the new show that goes out. And then also follow us on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Sign up, follow us, keep engaged. Let us know your thoughts, opinion, and feedback. And if you have a chance, buy the book, The Pursuit of Growth, where simply, if you read this book, all your dreams will come true. But with that, Brian, again, thank you, sir. Sammy, as always, it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hi, guys.
Peace.